Ah, yes, the M1 iPad Pro. It's a marvelous piece of technology and one which Apple has been marketing as a computer replacement, but is it really, and for who exactly? Let's dive in a little bit deeper and see why it's truly awesome, but it's not really for me, and it may not be for you either. It's been a hot minute, right? And in the meanwhile, I've grown into a hipster. No, not really, but my hair is doing some funny business. Anyway, I have missed you guys, but yeah, let's not get too emotional about it. So let's get the specs out of the way, right? This model in particular is the 11-inch one. There is also a 12.9-inch version of it, but I think it is a bit too big to be considered portable, and you might as well get a laptop at that point. However, there is at least one reason to choose the bigger model, the display, and no, I don't mean because it's bigger. Obviously it's bigger, but it also uses a mini LED technology, which Apple calls Liquid Retina XDR display. And it's really cool. It is very bright and it has true black colors. The 11-inch version has a more standard display, let's say. It's a Liquid Retina display. But will you notice the difference without them being side by side? Probably not. And also, while both of them are capable of HDR content, the mini LED version is definitely a lot brighter, especially again if you put them side by side, there is a massive difference. Other than that, they are both very similar displays. They are both, for example, ProMotion displays, which is Apple's way of saying they are 120 Hz screens, which is very nice to have. It's not a must necessarily for me, but again, in 2022, it's definitely a nice to have feature. And you can tell the difference when you're looking at quick animations, for example. And I'd like to linger just a bit more on the display topic because I don't want you to get the wrong impression. The 11-inch version definitely has a gorgeous display, and it's probably going to be the best display in the house for many people. It's great, it's vivid, it's bright, it's punchy. I don't think there's anyone who can complain about this unless you put them side by side, and then yeah, you see a bit of an improvement on the bigger version. You can choose from 128 gigabytes all the way up to 2 terabytes, and even if it sounds pretty crazy to get a 2 terabytes iPad because it costs like $1,900, you do get 16 gigabytes of RAM as well with the high storage versions, which someone who might want to use it as their only computer might want. And also you get 8 gigabytes of RAM with the lower storage versions like this one here, which still it's plenty for an iPad for many years to come, to be honest. You have two options for connectivity. There is Wi-Fi only or Wi-Fi plus 5G. It weighs this much for the 11-inch version and this much for the 12.9. But yeah, that's just boring usual specs. Let's get to the interesting parts, and that is, of course, the M1 Apple-made processor that's inside this thing. It has 8 CPU cores, 8 GPU cores, and 16 neural engine cores. This is crazy powerful stuff. Apple claims 50% more CPU power and 40% more GPU power compared to last gen, and yeah, I believe them. You will never ever need to close apps or anything. You can just leave them all open, running in the background. But that is kind of getting us close to one of the issues with all this horsepower. Did anyone complain the last gen iPad wasn't powerful enough? Yeah, I don't know. More on that later though. Thanks to the M1 processor, Apple was also able to put a USB-C Thunderbolt with 40 gigabytes per second connection. That means you can transfer files extremely fast, or you can plug external monitors or anything like that without any issues. Interestingly, despite the bigger battery on the bigger version, the approximate battery life is about 12 to 11 hours on both, so probably the bigger screen and more brightness is also draining the battery at a faster pace. But nonetheless, great battery performance, and if you use it casually, it will last for days. It comes with a 20 watts charger and detachable USB-C cable in the box, so it's nice that at least here they still include chargers, if you know what I mean. The speakers on this thing sound amazing, especially when you consider the size limitations. It sounds a lot better than many laptops out there, and it's really putting them to shame. The sound is loud, but more importantly than that, it's clear, and even manages to get a bit punchy with the lows and bass. You definitely won't be needing a Bluetooth speaker if you have this. Honestly, this feels like the Bluetooth speaker. It's got 4 stereo speakers, 2 on each side, and it's pretty much impossible to cover all of them with your hands. I don't know how much you will be able to tell from this recording, but let's have a listen. Yes, it has multiple cameras, and no, you shouldn't use any of them. Anyways, it does have great cameras. On the back we have a 12 megapixel sensor for the wide angle camera, a 10 megapixel sensor for the ultra wide camera, LiDAR for measuring things and augmented reality if you are into that kind of stuff, the flash, and a microphone. I accidentally recorded in 1080p as it comes as the default setting, but it has a 4K mode as well, and you can expect it to be even better. On the photo side, you will get some very similar results with the iPhone. I think they are exactly the same cameras actually, so pretty good detail, nice dynamic range. On the front we get the front-facing camera, a 12 megapixel sensor alongside the full array of sensors that allow Face ID and Face Unlock. They do make life just a bit easier. Hi! Hi Marco! Who's the cutest boy? Oh my god! He's so cute. Hi! Hi to you too! How are you doing? Are you hungry? Have you been sleeping lately? Have you been cute lately? Yeah, you have. This front-facing camera is pretty good, although there is one issue with it. As you can tell, it's put to the side, on the left side, which is a weird option. Apple, why? When you are in video calls or anything like that, Zoom, whatever, you're gonna look like you are too busy to be bothered, too infatuated with yourself, or I don't know, you're just not looking at the person you're talking to, so that is kind of an issue. Although the studio grade microphones should sound pretty good. There's 5 of them all over this device, so please let me know if it sounds decent. Now, if you want to have more of a laptop experience, you'll probably want to get a keyboard. The Magic Keyboard is of course a pretty great choice if you want to burn $300, but thankfully you can also connect it to any other Bluetooth keyboard and mouse, and they work pretty well, I must say. Instead of the Magic Keyboard, I got a regular cover and it's pretty cool. It's also a must, I'd say, if you don't want to scratch up that lovely display. It would really be a shame. I also got the pencil too, and this is great. It works very nice. It's much better implemented than the first version. Does anyone remember that hazard of a thing that was sticking out of the USB port while charging and it was just... no? Okay, it's for the best. But yeah, this just clips in place with magnets and charges wirelessly. Now that's what I call magic, not the magic keyboard. So Apple has nailed the hardware part, but what's it like actually using this thing? Well, like using any iPad. But I will start from my perspective and then go over the iPad OS as a whole and all that. So I bought it for photography. No, not to take photos, but to edit photos on it, instead of using my computer to just basically spice things up a bit. And Lightroom on iPad works flawlessly. It's very nice having the image you're editing at your fingertips. Using the pencil does give you more of a sense of control and fine-tuning. How I've been using it is both syncing with my desktop version of Lightroom Classic. So all the photos that I have on my computer will appear on the iPad if I choose to, and I can edit them here, which is pretty dope. You can also just directly import an image into the iPad Lightroom and edit it directly from it. But it's not really my favorite way of using it because of the pretty iffy file management system on the iPad, and I'll get to that in a second. But yeah, it's pretty great at editing photos if you are occasionally editing a photo or something like that, but I wouldn't say for batch editing of photos or yeah, any high number of them. So I'd say overall it's a pretty great experience, but, and that's kind of a general theme here across the device, not only Lightroom. So let me try to put it as best as I can. It's pretty nice that the device doesn't overwhelm you with too many options, but if we rephrase that, doesn't overwhelm you with options can also mean it's pretty damn limiting, and that's exactly what it means. I mean, more often than not, I find myself going back to the computer for doing pretty much everything, including photo editing, and I end up using the iPad just for YouTube or Spotify while I'm doing something else on the main screen on the computer. And I don't know, it's not what I got it for, and it feels a bit bad just using it for that and having that much horsepower and using it on YouTube, you know. It's also great for ebooks. It's a great ebook reader, but kind of an expensive ebook reader if you get it just for that, I'd say. So to get a bit more specific, I think it all starts with the file management, and separately from that, it's the pretty weird workflow that's required to have, at least for me it's weird, in order to edit photos on it. Now, to be mentioned is that this is my first Apple device as well, so I may just not be used to it, but even after half a year of using it, I still don't like this part any more than I did in the beginning. I found some workarounds, but they are pretty annoying, and basically, if you do not own a Mac computer, file transferring from the iPad will just plain suck. I've tried everything: iTunes, cloud, even setting up a custom IP folder on my network. It just doesn't work how I would like it to. And it applies to pretty much everything you might want to transfer on your iPad or from your iPad, like a movie, song, book, anything which on any other device, for example, Android-based, Linux-based, Windows-based, is much simpler and more direct. It's just a pain to do it the Apple way, at least if you're not fully part of the ecosystem. Otherwise, I know there's AirDrop, and that is a godsend, I hear. If you're a graphic designer or anyone who can draw, basically, this is a great device to do it on. If you're not, don't expect it to turn you into one. So getting back to the M1 processor, yes, it's cool that Apple put it on this device, but I don't see how you can fully utilize it, really. Even plugging in an external display will just duplicate your iPad screen, not extend it. And yes, I know Apple announced that this will change with iOS 16, but really, it took them several years to do that. That just shows you that Apple wants to keep it this way, wants to keep the iPad limited, and wants to keep this product lineup. So yeah, it just feels like driving a Ferrari to the supermarket or something like that. I don't know, it's just not a great feeling to me, at least, especially considering how damn expensive this thing is. So, in conclusion, the M1 iPad Pro is amazing. It's hands down the best tablet ever made, but it's probably too good for what it really is, a tablet. And I'll probably get a lot of hate for this, but I'm not trying to bash it. I really like it. I would just like for Apple to let it be at its full potential. I think it can be so much more than what it is today. But to me, at least, it's just an expensive entertainment device, a luxury item. Basically an expensive toy at the end of the day. And I will always pick up a computer if I want to get something done. And yes, I know there are a ton of people, especially here on YouTube, who show that they can be super productive and only use an iPad. And yes, it's aesthetic, yes, it's pretty, yes, it's nice. But it is also pretty unrealistic to me that you would choose the iPad as your only workstation if you don't have to. And all of the above are only possible when you are really trying to make it work, or again, when it is your only computer. And if that's the case, then I have no problems with that. But at the end of the day, this limitation is only because Apple is trying to protect their MacBook sales, and it's keeping the iPad and iPadOS in this weird sort of purgatory state between iPhones and MacBooks, but clearly closer to the iPhones. Even if it is a pleasant experience and a polished one, and you can connect your keyboard and mouse and get a bit more productive that way, the software side simply isn't there yet to be able to compare it to a computer. In the meanwhile, all we can do is hope that iOS 16 will address some of these limitations, and it will get better with more flexibility and more stuff that you can do on the iPad. But I don't really expect it to change that much, and I don't imagine for a second that Apple would risk eclipsing the MacBook even slightly. Part of me is thinking that maybe it's just me, a millennial who's getting old and is so used to computers and doesn't keep up with tech and how devices work nowadays. Nah, it's just Apple. So, the real conclusion this time. If you want the very best tablet, this is it. Get it. Especially for entertainment purposes, it's the best. But if you want a computer, and I am also talking to photographers now, if you want to edit more than an occasional photo or two, you might be better off with a MacBook Air if you want a somewhat similar Apple experience at about, a similar price. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Also, I promise it won't be half a year this time, so stick around. See ya.